All right, so the next chapter is for people who are potentially starting a program and now starting to get a little bit of momentum, or if you're just kind of getting your feet wet and you want to say to yourself, hey, Coach Santiago, how do I measure my success? And I've developed a real quick way to think about that, ways that have worked for me in the past, and I think are tried and true. So the first thing I want to talk about, and this is very, very, very important, growth is not always the name of the game. And I think a lot of times in business, the stuff we hear about in the news and stuff we hear about in the paper is all this massive growth that goes on. And here's the thing about coaching or working with kids. We have to understand that we're not selling widgets, we're not selling products, we're not selling inanimate objects. We are selling our ability to impact a child or young adult's life with a positive experience, with an experience that's going to make them better after they're done with our program. So it's very hard to do that and grow massively quickly. Okay, you have to be organized enough to be able to do that with a small organization. Now we start acting like we're some Fortune 500 company and we just start adding programs and we start throwing stuff around and we're not really understanding what the right type of growth is. So growth is not always the most important thing. Maybe it's dominating what we're doing on a small level, maybe charging a little bit more for that service to make that service better for a smaller group of people before latching on to some new programs. So growth, although impressive to your accountant or impressive to yourself potentially, may not always be. So I don't believe that's a great way to measure your success. So I would say if you're growing, let's grow organically. Remember, more people, more problems, more people you have to hire, more issues you have to deal with. So something to think about. Growth is not always the name of the game. Also, push out some surveys. Send some surveys to your customer base. And it's a pretty well-known fact that most people want to give you their immediate feedback just as they're leaving the program or leaving a season or leaving your event. See a lot of surveys that come out December for an event that I went to in July. Well, I don't even remember the event. Or maybe I'm in the middle of the event. So you want to really try to hit people with surveys. There's a lot of free services out there you can subscribe to. And make sure your questions are focused to how you can improve. Okay? A lot of people put out questions that are just open-ended questions that really don't tell you as a program director if this program or this service is working. So when you ask a question, I would limit it to about 4 to 5 questions and really make it specific to areas that you're curious about and that can really impact your business. Okay? Make sure there's strategic questions. Bounce them off of some people and get some feedback to how strong your 5 questions are. The next thing we're going to talk about, impacting lives will always lead you to proper growth. Well, how do we know we're impacting lives? Well, there's a couple different ways I've always thought about measuring my ability to impact lives. Talk to the people who are coming through your program, and usually they'll tell you, hey, I brought Johnny to you and he was like this before and now he looks like this, or now he's acting like this, or now he's behaving like this, or the schoolwork is now more important, or they're working really hard. If you're running an event, are people walking away this year with 2 people coming to your event, or 2 teams, or 2, participants, and now they're coming back with 10? Those are ways you can really see that you're making an impact on some lives. And you're going to hear about yourself out there in the marketplace. You're going to hear about yourself on social blogs. You're going to hear about yourself on forums. What are they saying? What are people saying about you? I think it's something that we are just wound a certain way that we don't really want to know those answers. And I beg of you to go out there and really ask people, what do you think of my program? What do you think of me? What am I doing? How is this working? How do you feel about this program? Remember what I said earlier, this is an impact on a youth or a young adult. It's a very emotional situation, so we want to make sure that we're getting some positive emotion back. The next thing, legacy is a long game and it takes time. I think every coach or every program director has some sort of fantasy on a legacy, and I think that legacies are really why people should be coaching. You want to be remembered for something. It's something that can live beyond yourself, and that's where I think you see a lot of the greatest coaches that we all know about, whether they're Bill Belichick or Greg Popovich or guys like that that are just tremendously sought after as far as knowledge and advice, because they have done it for a long time and done it very successfully. But you've got to understand it's a long-term game. Nobody's going to build a legacy in 5 months or 5 years. It usually takes time to do that, but you've got to start making decisions that push that long-term game out there. How do we do that? Well, couple quick ways to do that. Start writing some books, some e-books, make them free, do whatever you need to do, but books tend to live on long after you wrote them, so nobody can ever take that away from you. Think about blogging. There's a lot of blogging sites out there. There's a lot of free ways to put your messages out there in an organized fashion, but when people make purchases these days, the first thing they usually do is type something into a search engine, and it'd be great to have a blog or your book somewhere making you a leader in your space. And also strategic alliances. There are people out there that are known in your sport or your space as the best. And potentially there's an opportunity for you to become part of what they're doing and them to become part of what you're doing. So strategic alliances also kind of bring your game up just by association at times. All right, so our last point here is redefining the W and L column. And I'm using that because obviously we're talking about sports here. So I've always tend to look at things as an athlete first, and obviously we all know what the W stands for as an athlete and L stands for, wins and losses. As a business person, as a person that's involved in the sport now from a program director level and responsible to execute at a high level and also train people and develop people under me to help me with my vision, I had to redefine what that meant. So the W stands for what did we learn? So if we won something, meaning, man, we had this great plan to do this huge tournament and we hit our numbers and we got no weather and people are walking away great, that's a great opportunity to say, what did I learn from that experience? Don't just say, hey, we won and we didn't really gain any intel from that. What did we learn? So that's kind of how we develop our idea of what a W means. And I really urge you to do the same thing. An L, in most cases, stands for a loss. I like to look at it as a learning opportunity. We had this same plan to do this big tournament. We only got half the teams or a tenth of the teams, or weather was a big issue, or the facilities weren't great. What opportunity now do we have to learn from that? So they're both learning opportunities, but I really want to focus on the W being what worked, the L kind of being what can we learn? So you have to kind of redefine what those look like. And the last but not least on this particular subject or this particular point is you got to limit the emotions, whether it's good or bad. You got to try to look at things unemotionally. I always say, there's nothing wrong with celebrating if you did something really well or you're proud of yourself. But when you get back to that point of looking at that particular product so that we can evolve and grow and continue to develop, we've got to be unemotional about it. We've got to be able to look at it through some clear eyes, unemotional, and it'll really help you develop your business as you move forward.